Awaking in the late afternoon from some otherworldly dream. A nightmare of ghouls and goblins and witches, warlocks, vampiros and vampiras, werewolves, mummies, all types of creatures of the supernatural. It was as if I had lived an entirely different life, an entire life of adventures, but in a dream. Now that dream was over, and I was awoken to heavy pounding, pop on my hotel room door. My expulsion from the Pent Suite of the Vanderbilt Hotel came quick and fierce. The guards pounding at my door, attempting to barge into my barricaded room. Why were there barricades? Why was my room so heavily fortified, almost as if I was trying to keep something out? Or maybe I was trying to keep something in. I knew the answers lay somewhere within my weary psyche, but I did not have the energy to recall. Try as they might, they could not enter until finally, boom, boom, crash. The door split open like the legs of a common whore in a cheap motel building on the seedy side of town. There were 4, 5, no, maybe 6 guards, all storming into my room, all clad in orange-colored t-shirts, all overweight and unhealthy. Yes, many of them needed some sort of personal trainer or fitness plan, all demanding that I get my things and pack up immediately. My time at the Vanderbilt was over. I was no longer welcome. Quickly, I was shuffled into an unmarked van. I asked where was I going, but the driver would give me no answer. You'll get there when you get there, he told me, with no choice but to cooperate. I sat in the back seat and waited. But when you're an experienced gumshoe like me, waiting is just part of the job. Sometimes, a lot of times, many times, the easiest part. We arrived at the destination after quite some time, 30, maybe 40 minutes. It was an unfamiliar part of town, a part of town I'd never been to before, a part of town I'd never seen before. Everything was so new, so strange, so unfamiliar. Like the young essays dressed in black who greeted me with warm hellos and good-natured welcomes, as if possessed by a certain kind of Californian spirit. Though located in the big city, the area had a sort of small town charm to it. Real cozy. Not wanting to make a scene with the new neighbors, I quickly got out of the van and headed into the building which would be my new abode, 54 West 105th Street, also known as the Safe Haven. It's been a year since that day, and what I didn't know then, I most certainly know now. Safe Haven, though advertised as such, is anything but. And I've got the stories to prove it. Who am I, you might be asking? No one special, just an ordinary guy doing ordinary shit. Just a regular Joe Smo who puts his pants on one leg after the other, just like anyone else. Just a common good fella who ties his bootstraps one lace after the other into a perfect bow, tucked underneath the heel of his soul, just like anyone else. No, I wasn't anyone special, but somehow, within the hierarchy of Safe Haven, I soon became something extraordinary. Among the many characters here, among the many faces, among the many actors and actresses, the stage played out like an intricate play, with every face assigned to it a story of the silent Russian who you'll never hear coming until it's all too late, of the lavatory baron whom when he's around it's never safe to tinkle, of the dog-faced gremlin whose bite is worse than his bark, but his bark will fell you to your knees, of the false prophet, the man who played gospel music 24/7 until his enemies confessed their sins to the ears of a false god, of Mr. Chuckles, the man from below who always had a smile on his face, always a chuckle on his lips. Many of his victims, those still surviving, all say that a chuckle was the last thing they heard before the end. Of all these faces and many more, I became, was, and depending on who you may ask, still am, allegedly, the ringleader, the general of generals, the man possessing power, the ghost rider, the ebon surfer, the man of many masks, the broken one. Depending on who you ask, I, by far, was the worst, allegedly. A man who broke his own family. A man who abandoned his own son. A man who tortured a room full of school children. A man who betrayed his own clan. A man who all the residents of the town warned to stay far away from his path, because anyone who ever crossed it, their lives ended in misery and ruin. And above all else, never, ever, ever stare into his eyes, because among his many names and among his many powers, he had also one more. He was the man of the mal de ojo, the eyes of the demon.